Something Andy didn't mention was he's currently making a game with his son.
Yeah, that's one of my challenges is for this 3-week challenge that I'm doing at Let's Make Games is I've been teaching Game Maker at school and at TAFE, and my son who's 6 has shown an interest in making games, and so Game Maker is just a simple way to sort of get that up and running. And he, 6-year-olds have like a 10-minute attention span, and then they're off doing something else. So we're just sort of chipping away at this game, and I'm letting him completely direct it, allowing him to draw it and stuff like that. So yeah, getting in early. I want to train him up to be a coder for me because I need the extra.
Long-term investment.
Yeah, that's it.
I found working with a partner was very good because it keeps you motivated, and I was sort of, I guess, there was a designer. I approached this guy who's based in Portland in the US. We met each other just over the internet, knew each other fairly well that way, and we sort of set a timeline, and we work, of course, opposite hours, and we commit to short sort of targets. So I would wake up and whatever I needed from him would be done, and vice versa. And we really did, it felt to me, I think looking back, that we were always pretty much needing the other person to do a little bit of work for us. So it was pushing each other along, and that helped a lot because we kept each other motivated and working. So that was, I think, a good idea, and just somebody to talk to about problems and gameplay and so on, just instead of having it all in your head all the time. It's good.
Just a question about time frames. So from development right through to when the game's available to gamers, if you could make reference to a variety of projects.
So the question was just about timeframes for different types of projects. I guess I'll put this to whoever would like to take.
I guess for us, for Class 3 Outbreak, when we started, Jay was doing the game design, and he had this grand vision of this amazing zombie game, and we thought, that's way too much that we could ever complete in our spare time, but let's just start doing something. And our plan was to take about 4 to 6 months with about 5 to 10 hours a week each, and not because that we thought that was how much time it would take, just because we thought if we spent any longer than that on a single game, it would probably drain us. So 4 months passed, 6 months passed, and at that point we decided let's just chop out a whole lot of stuff that we're planning to do just so we can get something done. So in the end it took us about 7 months to get that out, but I mean really it's how big you want the project to be. I think it is very useful to get something out there in front of people, get some feedback, and see what people think of it, because you don't want to be spending 7 years of your life toiling away on something only to find that nobody really likes it. So and having all that feedback as well is very motivating. It really spurs you along to get stuff done.
Yeah, I think you can't be too precious about the release date. If you're not going to have the greatest game in the world, so just get something out and get some feedback from it. But I mean, the original question, timeframes are like, we've made a game in 48 hours on the Game Jam, from concept to completion and putting it online and people can play it. And then InterZone spent 4 years and millions of dollars and they still haven't released. And it really is just a question of how much you want to scope yourself and the resources that you've got to do it. Our iPhone game took, we've done a couple that sort of 2 or 3 months to get something from start to completion and on the App Store, and it's really just a question of how long you've got to invest and what you can achieve in that time given your own skill sets and the size of your team. And there's nothing stopping you from having a released game in a few weeks. I'll just answer for mine. We started in December 2009 and started promoting. We hoped to be out by, I think it was March. And we started, unlike, as Saxon said, the idea you basically come at these things with a very grand vision. And that's typical, and that's usually what I would do. But in this case, I actually had a very much smaller vision than what we ended up with, just because we kept tweaking it to make it more fun. So we expanded it to where we thought it was good. I think it was, so I started promoting it by about March. Hoped to have it released by May, but then we ended up going on holiday, and so that was away for a month. I thought, well, it'd be crazy to release it while I was away. Came back, gave it to the beta testers because it was practically ready to go. Gave it to the beta testers over that month. They tried it out, came back, decided there were a few things that needed changing, and then spent another month tweaking it. And I'd say about 60% of that calendar, in terms of calendar time, was spent only after hours, so a full-time job. And then I guess 30% was 1 day a week at home, so a 4-day job. And then the last 10% was 2 days a week at home. And yeah, and that's what it took to get that done. So it was a little bit strenuous, really, but it was something. It's quite scary to commit to a project. You have no idea what kind of returns you're going to get on, and you have a job that's giving you some money, and you're going to turn it down. So yeah, I guess I sort of ramped down as I ramped up the game, and yeah, that's how long it took.
Surf Prodigy took me 2.5 months to build, and that was done during the global financial crisis. At that time I was doing about 5 jobs, I think, just to stay afloat. And that was just out of fear. I didn't really have any financial problems, I was just worried that it was all going to crash. And also, I took only 2.5 months to release Surf Prodigy out of fear again that somebody else would come out with a better title. A new game I was working on, what's it called, Kitchen Chaos. I had a chat with a friend and associate from Interzone, and we're like, yeah, we'll get it done in half a week or something. And the game dynamic was done in maybe an hour. The main game mechanic was done in about an hour, but just the way that life gets in the way. It's still not released. It's like a game that should have been done in about a month, but other things have got in the way. So that's still ready, or almost ready to go. Anthony went away on holiday for a while, so that he was doing the art, I was doing the coding, and so while I was waiting around for some assets from him, I started up a new game, which I'm about to release. And that game dynamic, or the game mechanic rather, took an hour to code, and then the rest of the time since October now to make it fit for human consumption. So yeah, there's a lot of that. Like there's a game that you think that you can release, but then you look at it and you work out what the market expects, and there's a lot of polish, a lot of presentation that goes on top of that. And then mainly, yeah, life gets in the way. I think that's the main thing. So so October till, what is it now, March, for a game that I was probably spending 2 hours a night every week, every day of the week on. So yeah, varies.
Well, the scope of our game seems to be quite different. Hearing this, we started on the educational game we're working on back in March 2010, so it's been 12 months now. We're just going into beta testing now. We've had a team of 4 people, pretty much full-time during that time, working on the game. It is quite large. The number of assets exceeds, correct me if I'm wrong, Mass Effects 1 and 2, Simon. So it's large. Would be a mild way to state that, but obviously, it requires the time. Within that, we've had to battle a few aspects of creature feed. No? Feature creep. I always get that wrong.
Too many assets, so don't get it.
And also a few organic developments of the game along the way, but we're heading for beta testing next week, so that's exciting.
Got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. I'm going to go.
Yes, just quickly about how have you gone about beta testing for an education game for kids?
That really comes down to the client that has asked us to produce this on a fee-for-service basis. So they actually have links to the educational system. They were a teacher at one point and have very strong links to the community in the schools around their surrounding areas. So
is it kind of being marketed through the education department or something? Is that kind of how it's
no, it's not being marketed through the education department at the moment. It's a non-for-profit game. That's the business model that's being pursued. However, non-for-profit is always a difficult thing to try and establish. So it's got a variety of sources, but it's mainly funded by one individual at the moment.